My name is Sarah Chen, and I never imagined that my obsessive attention to detail would lead to the most shocking discovery of my career. As the head chef and co-owner of Meridian Fine Dining, I've always been meticulous about every aspect of our restaurant, from the temperature of our soufflés to the decimal points in our financial statements. It was a Tuesday evening in March when my world turned upside down. The dinner rush had just ended and I was in my office above the restaurant, going through our monthly financial reports. Most chefs don't dive this deep into the numbers, but I learned early in my career that understanding every dollar is what separates successful restaurateurs from those who close within 2 years. As I scrolled through our accounts payable, something caught my eye. A series of payments to Coastal Supplies LLC, a vendor I didn't recognize. The amounts were substantial, $15,000 here, $22,000 there, spread across the past 18 months. My heart began to race as I cross-referenced these payments with our inventory records. There was no trace of any deliveries from this company. I pulled up our banking software and started tracing the payments. Each one had been authorized by Jennifer Walsh, our trusted accountant who had been with us for 3 years. Jennifer, who had access to our accounts, who knew our financial systems inside and out, who I had considered almost like family. The numbers kept climbing as I dug deeper. $48,000 in January alone. $67,000 in December. My hands were trembling as I reached for my calculator. When I finished adding up all the fraudulent payments, the total made me physically sick. $400,847. But here's what really stunned me. It had only taken me 12 minutes to uncover what Jennifer thought she had hidden perfectly. 12 minutes to discover that someone I trusted had been systematically stealing from the business my partner Marcus and I had built from nothing. I sat back in my chair staring at the screen. Marcus was at home with his family, probably helping his kids with homework, completely unaware that our financial stability had just crumbled. We weren't just any restaurant owners. Marcus had built his wealth through tech investments before we opened Meridian, making him a millionaire several times over. But this wasn't about the money. This was about betrayal, about trust, about everything we had worked for. As I processed the magnitude of what Jennifer had done, I realized I had a choice to make. I could call the police immediately or I could handle this my way. What I decided to do next would shock everyone involved, including Jennifer herself. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent the hours until dawn planning exactly how I would handle Jennifer's betrayal. Most people would have called the police immediately, but I had something else in mind. Something that would teach her a lesson she'd never forget while giving her a chance to make this right. The next morning, I arrived at the restaurant early as usual. Jennifer typically came in around 9 a.m. to handle the morning bookkeeping before our lunch prep began. I made coffee and waited, my heart pounding with each minute that passed. When I finally heard her key in the door, I took a deep breath and prepared for the performance of my life. "Good morning, Jennifer," I called out casually as she settled at her desk in the small office adjacent to the kitchen. "Could you come help me with something? I'm having trouble understanding some entries in our accounts payable." She walked over, coffee in hand, completely relaxed. "Sure, what's confusing you?" she asked, leaning over my shoulder to look at the computer screen. I had prepared a different spreadsheet, one that showed our legitimate vendors. "I'm trying to reconcile these payments with our inventory, and something seems off with our food costs. They're higher than I expected." Jennifer nodded thoughtfully, playing her role perfectly. "Well, produce prices have gone up significantly this quarter, and we did start ordering those premium cuts from the new supplier." For 20 minutes, I let her explain away various legitimate expenses while I watched her carefully. She was so comfortable with deception, so practiced at lying to my face. It made what I was planning feel even more justified. Finally, I switched screens. "Actually, Jennifer, there's something else I wanted to show you." The Coastal Supplies LLC payments filled the monitor. "Can you help me understand what these are for?" The change in her demeanor was instant and dramatic. The color drained from her face and her coffee mug slipped slightly in her hands. Those are, let me check my records," she stammered. "I already did," I said calmly. "There are no records. No deliveries, no invoices, no inventory received. Just payments totaling over $400,000 to a company that doesn't exist, at least not as our vendor." Jennifer's hands were visibly shaking now. She set down her coffee and stepped back from the desk. "Sarah, I can explain." "I'm sure you can," I interrupted. But first I want to show you something else. I opened a new document on my screen, a detailed forensic analysis I had prepared. I've traced every payment, Jennifer. I know when they started, I know how you created the fake vendor, and I know exactly how much you've stolen. She collapsed into the chair behind her, tears starting to flow. My daughter needed surgery, she whispered. The insurance wouldn't cover it all, and I was desperate. I was going to pay it back, I swear. Over 18 months? I asked. This wasn't desperation, Jennifer. This was systematic theft. What happened next surprised even me. Instead of anger, I felt an overwhelming sense of sadness. This woman, who I had trusted with our financial life, had been struggling with a sick child while stealing from us. The complexity of the situation wasn't lost on me. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. You have a choice to make, and it's going to determine the rest of your life. Jennifer sat across from me, mascara streaking down her cheeks, waiting to hear her fate. What I was about to propose would shock her more than my discovery of her theft. I'm going to give you two options, I began, pulling out a legal pad where I had written notes throughout the sleepless night. Option 1. I call the police right now. You get arrested for embezzlement, face felony charges, likely serve prison time, and your daughter, who you claim needed this money for surgery, loses her mother to the system. Your career in accounting is over forever, and you'll struggle to find any job that requires trust. Jennifer's sobbing intensified. She knew I was right. Option 2, I continued, is unconventional, but it might save your life and your daughter's future. I slid a document across the desk. This is a repayment agreement I drafted last night. You will pay back every single penny of the $400,847 you stole, plus 12% annual interest. But here's the twist, you're not paying it to me. She looked up, confusion replacing the despair in her eyes. You're going to pay it to a fund I'm establishing for restaurant workers who face medical emergencies. Every month you'll contribute $3,200 until the debt is paid in full. That's approximately 13 years of payments. Jennifer stared at the document, trying to process what I was saying. But that's not all, I continued. You're also going to work for free at a non-profit organization that provides financial counseling to low-income families. 20 hours per week for the entire 13 years. You're going to help other people avoid the mistakes you made. Sarah, I don't understand. Why would you? Because, I interrupted, destroying your life won't undo what you did. But maybe, just maybe, you can help prevent other families from going through what yours did. Maybe you can turn this horrible mistake into something that actually helps people. I pulled out another document. This is a confession letter. You'll sign it admitting to everything you did. If you miss even one payment, or if you fail to complete your community service hours, I file this with the police and option 1 becomes your reality. Jennifer's hands trembled as she read through the agreement. Why are you doing this? Most people would want revenge. Because my partner Marcus and I aren't most people, I replied. We've been fortunate in life. This theft hurts, but it won't destroy us. However, it could destroy you and your daughter if handled conventionally. I believe in second chances, but they have to be earned. What about Marcus? Does he know? I hadn't told Marcus yet, and that was intentional. He'll know everything by tonight. But the decision is mine to make. I'm handling this my way. Jennifer wiped her eyes and looked at the papers again. The community service, how would that work? There's an organization called Financial Freedom Foundation here in the city. They provide free financial counseling to families in crisis. Your skills as an accountant, combined with your experience making terrible financial decisions, actually make you uniquely qualified to help others avoid similar mistakes. And the Restaurant Workers Fund? Every penny you pay will go directly to help servers, cooks, dishwashers, and other restaurant employees who face medical emergencies they can't afford. Your theft will literally be transformed into a lifeline for people who need it most. Jennifer sat quietly for several minutes, reading and rereading the agreement. Finally, she looked up at me. What if I can't make the payments? What if I lose my job? Then you figure it out, I said firmly. Get 2 jobs, 3 jobs if necessary. This is your chance to make this right, Jennifer. It's more than you deserve, and we both know it. She picked up the pen with shaking hands. What she did next would determine not just her future, but the futures of dozens of restaurant workers who would benefit from her monthly payments. As she signed the documents, I realized that my decision would soon shock Marcus, our staff, and everyone else who learned about it. But I was about to discover that the biggest surprise was still coming. Word travels fast in the restaurant industry. Within a week of Jennifer's confession and our unusual agreement, the story had spread throughout our city's culinary community. The reactions were more intense than I had anticipated. Marcus's initial response was exactly what I expected. "You did what?" he shouted when I explained everything that evening. "Sarah, she stole over $400,000 from us. From our employees' future bonuses, from our expansion plans, from our security." I let him vent for 20 minutes before responding. "Marcus, we both know that money doesn't define us. Yes, it hurts, but prosecuting Jennifer won't get us our money back any faster. This way at least the money goes to help people who truly need it. But she betrayed our trust." "She did. And now she's going to spend the next 13 years making amends in a way that actually benefits society. Isn't that better than 3 years in prison followed by a lifetime of unemployment?" It took Marcus several days to come around, but eventually he agreed to support my decision. What we didn't expect was how the story would explode beyond our local restaurant community. A food blogger who had heard rumors about our situation reached out for an interview. Initially, I declined, wanting to keep the matter private. But then Jennifer approached me with an unexpected request. "Sarah," she said during one of our weekly check-ins, "I want to tell my story publicly. I think other people need to hear about the consequences of financial desperation and how it can lead to terrible decisions." "Are you sure? This could follow you for the rest of your life." "It's going to follow me anyway," she replied. "But maybe if I'm open about my mistakes, I can help prevent other people from making similar ones." The interview, when it was published, created a sensation. The story of the chef who discovered massive theft and chose rehabilitation over retribution resonated with people across the country. Within days, I was receiving calls from news outlets, podcast hosts, and even television producers. But the most unexpected response came from other business owners. A tech startup CEO in Silicon Valley called to tell me about an employee who had been embezzling money to pay for his father's cancer treatment. Instead of prosecuting, he had implemented a similar program after reading our story. A small retail chain owner in Texas established a fund for employees facing medical crises after her store manager was caught stealing to pay for her husband's dialysis treatments. The Financial Freedom Foundation, where Jennifer was doing her community service, saw their volunteer applications triple. Other cities began reaching out, wanting to establish similar programs. 3 months after the initial discovery, Jennifer and I were invited to speak at a national conference for small business owners. Standing on that stage talking about trust, betrayal, and the power of second chances, I realized that something extraordinary had emerged from something terrible. During the Q&A session, a restaurant owner from Chicago asked Jennifer directly, "Do you think you deserved the second chance Sarah gave you?" Jennifer's answer surprised everyone, including me. "Absolutely not. I stole from people who trusted me, who treated me like family. I deserved to go to prison. But Sarah didn't give me a second chance for my benefit. She gave it to me so that my mistakes could benefit others. Every month when I make that payment, I'm reminded that my selfishness is now helping families who are facing the same medical crisis that drove me to steal. That's not mercy, that's justice with purpose." The audience gave her a standing ovation. By the end of that conference, 12 more business owners had committed to establishing similar programs in their companies. The Restaurant Workers Emergency Fund that Jennifer was paying into had already helped 6 families cover medical expenses. But as we flew home that night, I had no idea that the biggest shock was still ahead of us. Jennifer was about to do something that would leave everyone speechless. 2 years had passed since that March evening when I discovered Jennifer's theft. The Restaurant Workers Emergency Fund had grown beyond anything I had imagined, helping over 40 families and inspiring similar programs in 11 states. Jennifer had become a sought-after speaker at financial literacy workshops, sharing her story with anyone willing to listen. Everything seemed to be progressing exactly as planned until Jennifer requested an urgent meeting on a cold Friday morning in November. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice carrying the same trembling quality it had the day I confronted her about the theft. "Something I should have told you 2 years ago." My heart sank. Had she been stealing again? Had she violated our agreement somehow? "When I first started taking money from the restaurant," she continued, It wasn't just for my daughter's surgery. That was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. I felt that familiar knot forming in my stomach. What do you mean? Jennifer pulled out a thick folder and set it on the desk between us. My daughter Emma's surgery was going to cost $89,000 out of pocket. But I stole over $400,000 across 18 months. I've let everyone believe that medical desperation drove me to steal far more than I needed, but that's not what happened. She opened the folder, revealing bank statements and medical bills. The first $89,000 went to Emma's surgery, exactly as I said. But then something happened that I never expected. What? The surgery worked better than anyone anticipated. Emma's condition improved so dramatically that she needed follow-up procedures, experimental treatments that weren't covered by insurance but offered her the chance at a completely normal life. Jennifer's voice grew stronger as she continued. Each month, as I was making payments to that fake vendor, Emma's doctors would present us with another opportunity. A new therapy, a cutting-edge treatment, a procedure that could eliminate her condition entirely. I kept telling myself I would stop after the next treatment, but there was always another hope, another chance to give her a better life. I stared at the medical records she was showing me. The progression of treatments, the mounting costs, the incredible results. By the time I had stolen $400,000, Emma was completely cured. Not just improved, cured. The doctors called it a miracle case. She's now a healthy 16-year-old who plays varsity soccer and has no trace of the condition that nearly killed her. Jennifer, why are you telling me this now? Because, she said, tears streaming down her face, Emma found out about the theft and our agreement 6 months ago. She overheard me talking to my sister about the monthly payments and the community service. When she learned that her perfect health came at the cost of stealing from you and Marcus, she was devastated. Jennifer pulled out one more document. A handwritten letter. Emma wrote this for you. She's been working part-time jobs and saving every penny since she found out. She wants to contribute to her own restitution. I read the letter, written in careful teenage handwriting. Dear Ms. Chen, I just learned that my mother stole money from you to pay for my medical treatments. I had no idea, and I'm horrified that my health came at such a cost to your business and trust. I know I was just a sick kid at the time, but I still feel responsible. I've saved $3,000 from babysitting and working at the ice cream shop, and I want to add it to my mom's monthly payments. I also want to volunteer at the Financial Freedom Foundation when I turn 18. My mom made terrible choices, but she made them because she loves me. Please don't let my guilt make you regret the second chance you gave her. She's a different person now, and she's helped so many families through the work you assigned her. I hope someday I can help people too. Thank you for choosing healing over punishment. I set the letter down, overwhelmed by the complexity of emotions washing over me. Jennifer, this doesn't change anything about our agreement. You still made the choice to steal regardless of your motivations. I know, she said. But I wanted you to know the complete truth. And I wanted to ask you something else. What? Emma wants to meet you. She wants to thank you personally for giving her mother a chance to make things right. She also has a proposal. What kind of proposal? Jennifer smiled through her tears. She wants to start a youth program connected to the Restaurant Workers Fund. A group where teenagers who have benefited from emergency medical assistance can volunteer to help other families in crisis. She's already talked to 5 other kids whose families received help from the fund. I was speechless. This 16-year-old who had unknowingly been the beneficiary of her mother's theft wanted to turn her gratitude into service for others. There's one more thing, Jennifer said. Emma's doctors want to write a case study about her treatment and recovery. If published, it could help other children with similar conditions. But she won't let them publish it unless you approve, because she says her healing is connected to your story of forgiveness and second chances. I looked at Jennifer, this woman who had betrayed my trust, who had stolen from my business, who had lied to me for 18 months, and who had just revealed she had been lying about her motivations for 2 more years. Yet somehow, through the consequences I had imposed, she had become someone who was making a genuine difference in the world. Tell Emma I would be honored to meet her, I said finally. And yes, she should absolutely allow the doctors to publish her case study. If her story can help other sick children, then something beautiful will have emerged from something terrible. As Jennifer left that day, I realized that my decision to choose rehabilitation over retribution had created ripples I never could have imagined. A thief had become a counselor, a sick child had become a healthy advocate for others, and a story of betrayal had become a model for restorative justice that was spreading across the country. Sometimes the most shocking thing isn't the crime itself. It's discovering that even our worst mistakes can be transformed into something that helps heal the world. The Restaurant Workers Emergency Fund now operates in 15 states. Jennifer has helped over 200 families avoid financial crisis, and Emma's youth volunteer program has expanded to 12 cities. What began as a $400,000 theft has generated over $2 million in assistance to families in need. That's what the millionaire did when he caught his cook stealing. He chose to plant seeds of healing rather than punishment, never knowing they would grow into a forest of second chances.